Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session, and today it is my pleasure to welcome here our coach Christian. So hi Christian, how are you today? It's really nice to see you again.
Oh, thank you, Veronica. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm really good. It's we had a little bit of storm yesterday in the area, and it caused a little bit of damage in our garden, in other people's garden. But yeah, luckily nothing too serious. So I see like the weather is changing, and when there is a heat wave, there are always some storms. So this is not really very pleasant, and so sometimes it can feel a little bit dangerous, right?
Right.
But other than that, it's I'm doing really well, and I think we can start. And actually, we already received a question
Mhm.
on our YouTube, and this is from Annie. And Annie is asking, "Hi, the brain has perceived a threat like fire or a bear. Then the survival brain kicks in, and we shouldn't sleep when there is danger. Daniel made a video with Dr. Yo. It's about dizziness, tinnitus, etc. These symptoms are also sent because the brain has perceived a danger. Dan from Pain Free also talks about such symptoms. But why can't these people still sleep? Even though their brain has sensed danger and the survival brain doesn't kick in. So it is a really nice and thoughtful question. So what do you think, Christian? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So Annie, my goodness, I'm so sorry that you're struggling with this, and what a really good question too. And you pointed out other programs that deal with fear and danger. And the difference in this case, I would say, the reason why other people are still able to sleep is because they haven't made the connection with sleep as being a danger or a threat or a problem. And so I think that's the big difference. If we wake up in the middle of the night, I mean, my wife does this all the time, randomly, and sometimes she won't be able to go back to sleep for a couple of hours. But she has never defined this as a danger or a threat. As a matter of fact, she's perceived this as, well, my body just needs to be awake right now. My body doesn't need to rest right now. And so, whatever you do, however you mess up her schedule, whatever the night looks like, it's really never going to be a threat for her. And so, in our case, at least in my case, I would say, when it was so easy for me to sleep regardless of where or when. I could take naps in the middle of the day. There was never a danger or a threat. When I started waking up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock, I think it was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, regularly for a couple of nights, that became scary. That immediately told my brain there was something wrong. I needed to do something, and the idea of trying to make sleep happen or forcing it to happen, and it wasn't working. That's when I engaged in this wakefulness as a threat. And so I think, regardless of the symptoms, danger isn't necessarily going to lead to not sleeping. It can create hyperarousal. We can be alert. It can be disruptive to our sleep. But in this case, how we define it with insomnia is we perceive that the danger is wakefulness. So, what are your thoughts, Ronnie?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I mean, different symptoms can trigger different responses. So it doesn't really have to be connected with sleep. And so, I mean, your question was really, really good because I see this logic behind it, right? But it's simply not everything causes like sleep disruption. So or even like an inability to sleep, right? We can, and if you think about it, we can sleep through the tinnitus, we can sleep through dizziness, and even when we have insomnia, the sleep is still happening, right? Maybe not in the form that we would like to. Maybe it could be more hyper sleep, it could be more light sleep, it could be more like dream state sleep, right?
Right.
So but still sleep is still happening, right? And this is important to note because so many times I thought like I'm not sleeping at all, I had an all-nighter. But when I thought about it, I just realized like, hey, it seems like I must have slept some because the time went too fast.
Right.
I had a dream there, and when I had a dream, I was so glad about it because wow, it means that I must have slept, or it felt like some of the thoughts, they felt like unreal. And only when I thought about my thoughts, I realized, okay, this didn't really came from my conscious brain. I didn't thought about it like really consciously. It was more like it came from this dream state kind of thing, right? So, that's it. Absolutely. The symptoms can be various, but they don't always have to be reflected or affected by our or reflected in our sleep, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, agree.
So, right, we have a question that is not really a question. I'm not even going to show it. So, but anyways, anybody who is watching, please feel free to share any thoughts, ideas, questions. And right, we have a question from Riley. So, Riley, hi guys. I've been struggling for the past couple of years with this problem. I always thought it was the feeling of tiredness that I hated, so avoided at all costs, and it made much worse. I understand it is now the meaning now behind it, and probably Riley still typing like to the question. But in the meantime, Christian, uh, I always thought it was the feeling of tiredness that I hated, so I avoided at all costs, and it made much worse. So, what can you share about this? Like when we feel like we want to avoid this feeling of tiredness that we, of course, nobody likes because we can feel very shaky, we can feel dizzy, or we can feel a lot of brain fog, and when we try to avoid it, what what it can cause? What's the struggle, right?
Thank you, Veronica. Yeah, and Riley, thank you for your question. I think, regardless of what it is, whether thoughts, feelings, emotions, anytime we try and avoid something, we're kind of showing or teaching the brain that this is bad or this is wrong or there's a danger to it and we want to avoid it. Um, for some reason, I was thinking about just like when we get like a song stuck in our head. So what if, there's a song that keeps playing in our head for a day or even a couple of days, right?
Mhm.
It's not that pleasant. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of frustrating, but how are we responding to it? And if we feel like it's something that we need to get rid of, we need to push, it tends to be more sticky. We tend to still kind of stay more engaged. So in this case, regarding the sensation or feeling of tiredness, if we can feel tired and not really find it to be a danger or a threat or anything we want to fix, we're not trying to avoid it or push it away, it's going to pass. Everything just passes with time. But as we try to control any efforts or any emotions, then we kind of find ourselves in a struggle, and the struggle kind of makes it once again kind of stickier and harder to let go. So again, yeah, you mentioned nobody thinks of being tired as something wonderful or they enjoy, but it's always about how they respond to it. How do they react to whatever it is? And so just like, if you wake up one day and you're really happy, right? There's no necessarily a reason behind it. There's anything that's going to happen. You're just happy. Imagine if you saw that as a danger or a threat, right? That feeling or sensation will become sticky and become kind of difficult. And so it really doesn't matter what it is, right? We can choose thoughts, feelings, emotions, and if we can draw a line down the middle and put a category of things that we like or good and things that we don't like as bad, we become more triggered when we feel the things that are bad on one side. And we try to force ourselves to kind of be in this other state that is really, there's no way to really control them. So the more we can just kind of, just like, songs or feelings, just allow them to pass, know that we're safe. And shoot, I mean, maybe even think about this. If I was home or it's the weekend, what would it feel like to just maybe lie down and rest or watch TV or do something kind of comforting? Or maybe if we're doing something actively, maybe we can just still enjoy it, still go for a walk, a hike, or interact with people. It's really always how we define, how we see things that make it a lot more difficult. Veronica, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to finish the question like Riley sent. And there's like, I understand it is not the meaning now behind it, but I can't just figure it out. What are some common themes you guys see? I started seeing a therapist and he thinks it must be pressure around work, but it just doesn't seem this way. So, you got a question? Hi guys. So I just want to like make it really clear. I just want to read it through completely. So I am really sure I get what is Riley asking. I've been struggling for the past couple of years with this problem. I always thought it was a feeling of tiredness that I hated, so avoided at all costs and made
Right.
and at all made much worse. I understand it's not the meaning now behind it, but I just can't figure it out. What are some common themes you guys see? I started seeing therapists and I think it must be pressure around work, but it just doesn't seem this way. Right. Um, hmm. If I'm right, if I'm getting it right, like Riley is he's trying to avoid the feelings of tiredness, and you explain it like really nicely, Christian, that the more we are trying to avoid something, the more sticky it becomes. So understanding that that's the struggle that is keeping us stuck, and it is, and seeing that it's only temporary is helping us like to pass it more with ease. And what are the some common themes you guys see? Did you get this question, Christian? Like, what exactly is
So,
tired you? I'm not sure.
so if I go back a little bit, he says, like, if can you go back one? He's like, tiredness, and so I avoid it. No, the next one says, I understand. No, that one, the little one. I understand it is now the meaning behind it. Okay, so he knows. Okay, and so then the third one, it says, but I can't figure it out. Do you need to figure it out? Does it? Does it
Yeah,
really matter, right? So imagine if every time you felt something, you had to figure out what the root cause of it was.
mm,
That's again maybe added digging in. I understand that makes me difficult or uncomfortable, but again, um, so Veronica, I'll tell you that there's quite a few calls that I get where they spend a lot of time talking about how their insomnia started.
yeah,
This was the moment. This is the cause. This was the day. This is the time. Whatever it was, and it's like it really doesn't matter what the root
mm,
cause was. It doesn't matter how it started. It's how you reacted.
yeah,
Say the same thing with this. Okay, now I understand that maybe it would be helpful for you, or it would feel like there's some reason to figure out why or how it started, but how it started isn't really as important as how you react or respond to it. And so I don't know if, because I can go back to and know exactly what caused it or what started it, but what really caused it was my response to it, not what happened. So whether it's an injury or illness or whatever it is, um, getting to the root cause of it isn't necessarily the solution for it. It's how can we respond to it without avoiding it or dodging it. This is just like if you get a cold or something, chances are you're not going to sleep very well. You're going to have quite a few sleep disruptions because, right, you're congested or it's uncomfortable, it's miserable. But if we look at being, just having sleep disruptions as dangerous, as scary, now the night, instead of having sleep disruptions, now it can become very intense. A lot of scanning and monitoring and this hyper arousal. So, Riley, I don't know if it's necessarily needed to figure out what the core um, purpose or reason, not the purpose, but the core reason for how this started. It's really more important about how you respond to it. So you even mentioned that your therapist said it's probably work related and it didn't even resonate with you. And so even if you found exactly what it was, I don't know if it'll make a big difference.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, and it totally makes sense. Like, it doesn't, even when we have like these bumpy nights and we are trying hard to figure out like what was the cause of these bumpy nights, actually, it doesn't really matter. What matters is how we respond, and this is the most important. So, thank you so much for figuring it out, Christian. And
Hopefully,
we have a question from Tiffany. So, hello. I've recently come to terms that being awake at night is okay and safe. Wonderful. However, on the nights that I'm overtired, I find myself trying and I'm stuck in the try. How do I become unstuck? So, what do you think, Christian?
So, Tiffany, if you read that first sentence again, I've recently come to terms that being awake at night is okay and safe. How do I become unstuck? Seeing that the nights when you're awake, it's okay and that you're safe.
Hmm?
Any attempt to pressure or make something happen or try to control something we cannot control, the pressure is on. The monitoring, the hyperarousal comes on. And so that's where the stickiness comes in. My going back to my wife, when she woke up, not last night, probably the night before, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, and she was wide awake. She goes, I don't know, just up the rest of the night. What was her response to that? Nothing, nothing. And so, right, I can't do that, right? I don't have that gift to just have no thoughts or feelings, or I would prefer. But again, since you've already seen that being awake is okay and it's safe, then there's nothing you need to do. And so now, once again, we're picking up this feeling or sensation of, I'm extra tired. Now I really need this to happen. That's when it becomes, again, a little bit sticky, a little bit tricky. So what
Yeah.
do you think, Veronica?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we are, the more we try, as you know, the more the sleep becomes elusive, and naturally, when we are in this try mode, it's helpful to have the awareness, like, oh, I'm trying here. Oh, I'm trying to make sleep happen. And this is like a sleep effort. And but when we spot this sleep effort and we realize it, I'm trying here, it neutralizes. And if whether you try with watching TV or by using some supplement or by like meditation, just ask yourself, do I still want to do it even if I know this is a sleep effort? Do I still want to do it because I like it, or I expect the immediate result of sleep? And if it feels like, oh, I want to do this because I like this funny show or whatever you're watching, then just keep going. But if you feel like, I actually hate this meditation, then you can let go of it and you can just go and rest, right? If rest feels available too. So that's what I wanted to share. And actually, we have a follow up comment from Riley that this is true. I understand what you're saying. I think a therapist always tried and find a foundation and pull it from the root, but maybe it doesn't matter. Thanks. Oh, I really love this comment.
Yeah.
I totally can't relate because everybody, when I went to all the doctors, all the alternative practitioners, they always were looking for a reason why I would sleep. Right, each had the root of it, and one of them told me, "Oh, because uh, something weird happened in your past life. That's why in this life you can't sleep." Like,
Right, right.
so yeah, sometimes you may get those funny answers.
Yeah, and Riley, I think that everybody that you try and bring in to for support, whether it's doctors, therapists, whoever it is, they're going to give you the very best they have with the
Yeah.
information they've been taught and trained. So if when I went to the doctor, they prescribed medication, right? When I went to therapists, and that's plural, I had 3 therapists at one point. They all just told me it was childhood trauma. So we really dug in and worked on all this childhood trauma. And now I was just really anxious and not sleeping, right? And
Yeah.
so as I went to other different sleep programs like CBTI and Successful Sleeper and all those other ones, right? They had their program and they're giving you the very best they could. And the wonderful thing about it is that we get to choose. We get to respond and figure out what works best for us. This is why I think it's really important, Veronica, when we talk about what feels best for you, what
Hmm.
resonates with you, and whatever that looks like, go with that. And so I think whenever people are looking to find out, um, what did you do to befriend wakefulness? What was your journey look like? It's because they want to pull from you, because since it was successful for you, then they're hoping it'd be successful for them.
Hmm.
This is such an individual journey where we want to check in with ourselves and see what works best. And so I think it's wonderful for you to be able to get support from therapists, but also kind of be able to figure out what resonates, what works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And regarding befriending wakefulness, that what works for someone doesn't have to work for someone else. It's like I really like how you once mentioned that for you work, you enjoyed watching MMA fights. So this is not definitely for everybody.
Right.
Definitely, it wouldn't be something for me. I preferred my Big Bang Theory, which was really easy, light, and really and funny. So it really you Riley, you get to explore what works for you best, and even this other way is not the only way that you have to go. You know, you can maybe CBTI makes sense to you is that you want to have a strict sleep window, or you want to take these pills, or you want to take these supplements, or you prefer the meditations. Just whatever makes sense to you, just go this way, and what doesn't make sense to leave it behind.
I agree.
Okay, we have a question, a little bit longer one from Udita. So, hi, Udita. Hi, I have been doing much better for the past couple of months. Thank you for guidance and advice that I have received from this channel. I'm happy to hear this. Here and there, I sometimes face a little bit of fear of whether today I'll be able to fall asleep, but I'm able to let those thoughts pass and sometimes read a book or just lay there closing my eyes. Well, my issue right now is if I sleep with someone beside me, this lingering anxiety is there, like I'm gonna fall asleep, or their snoring sometimes make my heart race. I know it sounds stupid, but I feel like I don't want to listen to them falling asleep before me. It's like this competition I anticipate as a danger. Is there any tips you have that can help me to change this mindset? So, what do you think, Christian?
Yeah, Veronica, thank you. So, Yudita, if I'm saying that correctly, I would say there are no stupid questions. I think whatever you're asking is because we're feeling maybe unsettled, unsafe, and if we can get some information that can really be helpful. So, hopefully, we can provide that for you. So, my going back to my wife, right? So, my wife tends to sometimes talk in the middle of the night or, make some noise. And when I was super hyper aroused and it felt very fragile, we ended up sleeping in separate rooms for a while until I started realizing that it wasn't anything other than this hyper arousal, this trying to defend and protect, that was also keeping me very sensitive about around my environment. And so if we can go back to recognizing that regardless of whether we sleep or we have a choppy night, we're really safe. We're really okay. That hyperarousal starts to come down. And oftentimes we can have noises, we can have some distractions, and there tend to be more of a sleep disruption. And so, what would it feel like to be able to just kind of lay in bed and just rest and be able to just see whatever happens, happens, but also do it with gentleness, with kindness? I think everybody is very different about when they choose to do that. I mean, I think it took several months before, we were able to kind of sleep in the same bed. And even then, I felt a little bit kind of very defensive, a little bit jumpy because I didn't want to be disrupted. So that was also information for me to know that I was still a little bit scared. And that's okay. It's okay to feel a little bit of fear, a little bit feeling unsure when there's any kind of changes. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But what would feel more comfortable, right? What would feel best for you without putting any pressure? I think sometimes the desire to, fully recover or be healed or however you want to define it puts more pressure because we're trying to define it for it to look a certain way. And if rest is what we need, if we're defining that, it's okay for now, for the time being, maybe we don't need to make any changes. Now, what I've noticed too is when we would travel, we didn't, we didn't get separate rooms or anything. And so then that was the opportunity for us to once again just be in the same bed. And anytime those things came up, I was really grateful for it because it created this moment where I could just, I don't know, just see that I was okay. There wasn't anything I really needed to do or fix. But I agree with you. When we're still in that kind of sensitive state, still dealing with a little bit of fear and stability, we want to protect our sleep. We want to do something. And regardless of what it is, if it's a potential risk or distraction, want to keep it away. That just means you're still a little afraid, and that's okay. Veronika, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely agree with all what you said, Christian. And sometimes we see this snoring as an obstacle to our sleep, and it's something that we don't want to experience, something that we don't want to hear, because it's like then like the response, like it can be like you have a racing heart, Udita, and it's very normal, right? It's like really nothing strange or unusual, because your brain like perceives this. Oh, I hear snoring, this means we are not going to sleep, and this is danger, right? But when you just kind of like reframe it to, okay, I hear my partner snoring, this means I'm safe, I'm here with him, uh, in my own safety, in my comfort zone. There is no danger. And if we can reframe it in kind of like this way and acknowledge like the emotion, oh, of course, my nervous system is still a little bit sensitized. I don't feel very comfortable, but it's okay. I am safe. There's really nothing wrong with this. When we just allow this experience pass, then then it may take a few days until this settles, and we kind of like get used to hear this noise at night, and even with this noise over time we can feel safe. So I would say that give it some more time, Udine, and I believe you will get used to it, and it will not be a problem for you anymore.
Yeah. And Veronika, if you don't mind, the one thing I was reading and I noticed too, it says um, there's a lot of anticipatory anxiety. What's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen if he? What do I do? And I think whenever we are anticipating any danger or any threat, we're going to tend to be a little more anxious. But it hasn't happened yet. This is just like, for example, when I'd be driving and the sun was setting, I'd start getting anxious. Right? What's going to happen tonight? And I think this anticipatory anxiety can feel sometimes more intense than actually being in the middle of a difficult night. Because I think if we can kind of trust ourselves to know how to handle the situation and maybe just kind of be in the moment, I think that can also make us realize that it's not as scary or difficult as the anxiety we had about learning how to handle it. And so I've had things where I've woken up in the middle of the night, and maybe that was my fear beforehand. And when I was in it, it didn't seem as scary as the anticipation of it happening. So maybe just again, like you mentioned, just kind of go through the night, see what it feels like, and trust that you can handle that situation because there is no real danger, there's no real threat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this, Christian. And now we have a question from Parth. I have come to terms with my not sleeping at night, but sometimes the whole day I'm fine. And when I go to bed at night, I have anxiety and it irritates me a lot. I just wanted to ask that I have to change places after a month, and it makes me very anxious that after changing places, I will have the nighttime anxiety issue again. So, what do you think, Christian?
So if I understood the question correctly, I think the idea, during the day you're fine, there's no danger, there's no threat, while we're going about our day. Then at night, we can oftentimes, and this happened with me as well, I would look at the bed as a place where the conflict was, where the struggle was. And so I think that's normal. Now, I wasn't sure if I understood correctly. Like, do you travel so you sleep in different locations? Is that the problem, or was
Uh,
it
Maybe
about?
he's moving. I guess he's like moving from his current place.
Oh, I don't know if we need to change places. Now, for me, at one point, the bed, even just if I would walk past my room and I would look at the bed, I would feel anxiety. So there was a lot of pressure just
Yeah.
even being around the bedroom. And so I think I remember one night I went out to the couch and I fell asleep there. And I thought, this is my new place. I want to sleep here for now. I'll be a couch sleeper for the rest of my life if I need to. Again, no pressure. And so I started sleeping on the couch for a while. And I realized that my ability to sleep was still there. And the only problem or conflict was how I was perceiving the bed. This is just like how we're perceiving the night, how we're perceiving anything. That's where the struggle is. And once I realized that the bed had nothing to do with it, that I could just sleep anywhere, I don't know, after maybe a couple of months or so, I decided to just go back to bed and fall asleep there. And so I think the anxiety is this kind of bracing for impact once again. And what would, again, going back to what would feel best? Would it feel best to just lay down in bed, or do we feel like there's a struggle, there's anxiety, it's very difficult? Like, are we trying to make ourselves sleep? So what would feel best? Always, kind of check in with yourself. What would feel best is probably always going to be the best way to respond to it. And I think a lot of people define recovery is when they finally go back to sleeping in their bed. And so maybe how we're defining recovery might also be what's making things still a little sticky. And so maybe the fact that we're just sleeping wherever we are, it doesn't really matter. I worked with somebody for a while too. They said, I love sleeping on the couch. It's so comfortable. I can even take naps there, but I'm not recovered until I go back to bed. I'm like, listen, if I could sleep on the kitchen counter, I would have slept there forever. It doesn't really matter, right? So I think once again, how we're defining something can make it more difficult for us. So I don't know, Veronika, did that question kind of resonate with what I was saying?
Yeah, I think so. It just, when we have, the anxiety as you were speaking, I was thinking about that he's basically scared of anxiety once he is going to change the places. And like you were also mentioning in response to the previous question, the anticipatory anxiety, and it's about responding like, whatever the night brings, I'm safe, right?
Right.
And it's all about once you learn how to deal with anxiety, how to not avoid it, how to not kind of like stop it, or not to be afraid of it, so you don't feel the anxiety, then kind of like you'll never have a problem with it, because even if it shows up, it will pass, and it doesn't have to control your life anymore.
Right.
Because and this is the key, because when we don't know that much about the anxiety, about the responses of our brain, then we kind of like get stuck, and we feel like I can't do anything else because I feel anxiety. But when we learn to work with it, we can just allow it to be there. Like, okay, I'm anxious, but even when I'm anxious, I can feel safe. And this is something that I can process, and I have the ability to allow it to be there, to process it, this is not my forever. And naturally, when we change places, like nervous system goes in high alert, and all the alarm systems are going on 100%, right? But really, when we show our brain like, hey, this is safe, this signal is okay, there is nothing to be afraid of, then they go down again. It will settle, and we'll be able to sleep. We'll be able to to like go through even a sleepless night in a more calm way, and that will teach our brain like, hey, it will teach our brain the safety and allows us to sleep, right? So we can answer one last question we have received, and this is from David. I try to find the connection of insomnia and high cortisol nighttime awakenings. Is this just hyperarousal also? I thought I was making progress, but I have a hard time falling back asleep lately. Also, does anyone have any tips for dealing with waking up in the night disoriented, like your thoughts aren't your own? So what are your thoughts like on the nighttime awakenings? Does it have to do something with high cortisol, or does it even matter?
Man, this really brought me back almost immediately, right? So first and foremost, no medical advice here. So if you feel like there's anything that you need to do and have your doctor check things out, I think please do so. But at one point, I thought my cortisol levels have to be out of whack. That's what's going on, because it feels so intense. It feels so vivid. And so I remember doing these tests to check my cortisol levels. Once again, the cortisol levels are fine. Everything's fine, right? Everything is always fine. There's nothing better than going through this and knowing that you couldn't be healthier, right? Everything is perfect. so frustrating. And at the same time, right? For me, what felt like these cortisol spikes or anything kind of being off chemically, once I ruled that out, I realized it's just hyperarousal.
Mhm.
Hyperarousal can feel so intense. If you think about just fear, it is one of the most intense emotions because it wants to protect us. It wants us to stay safe. And so when we don't feel safe, that rush of adrenaline or that rush of whatever we think chemically is just this monitoring, the scanning the environment. And so again, don't know if it's cortisol levels being off, but I went through this as well, and really it just tends to always, in many cases, be hyperarousal.
Mhm.
Veronica, your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I just remember one person from one of our clients saying that she was like really in the midst of like her insomnia nightmare. She had like panic attacks after panic attacks, intense anxiety, not consecutive all-nighters. And in the middle of this, she went to check the cortisol levels because she thought this is the root cause, this is the problem, and they
Mhm.
were fine. They turned out to be absolutely okay, and she was like, what, how on earth my cortisol could be okay when I feel like this? It just really doesn't even make sense, right? So, I mean, like Coach Christian mentioned, always if you are not sure, always go and check with your doctor. But when everything turns out okay, it's probably most likely the hyperarousal, and it's very normal, like to wake up multiple times throughout the night. We may call it like sleep maintenance insomnia, and really nothing strange or unusual. It just added the facet of like insomnia. The other one we call like sleep onset insomnia, and you know, as always, our response is important. How we respond to this nighttime awakening. If we respond with more fear, more anxiety, if we respond with like, oh my goodness, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening, I will be tired tomorrow, I will not function, etc., etc., then probably we are going to stay longer for a much longer, but right. But if we just accept it, like, yeah, I'm awake. That's okay. I'm safe, and see it like an invitation to befriend wakefulness. I can just rest here, or watch TV, or read a book, or just look inside me. How do I feel? What are my emotions? Then it is like a really helpful way how to teach our brain the safety around this experience. So I hope this was helpful. I hope we have answered your questions, guys. Thank you very much for all your wonderful questions. Thank you very much for being here, Coach Christian. And if anybody is interested in having a one-on-one with Coach Christian, just look under this video, and I will share the link to connect with him. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Take care.